I ran into Barbara Waters last week, and during our conversation, I learned a little bit more about her. She had been the fashion director at iMagnin. She worked with every designer of the time and flew in Givenchy to appear once on the Phil Donahue show. Barbara asked me almost immediately how Bill Fisher was. I'm always happy to report that Bill is doing just great. His nieces set him up in the suburbs with the care he needs, along with 3 good meals every day. Early in Bill's health issue, I told him we need to pray for healing, and there was healing. Bill received acceptance of his condition, and with it came contentment and gratitude. That's why I was surprised when his niece Jane called me on Sunday to tell me Bill had died earlier that morning. Jane said Bill told her he was ready to go, and she said, "You'll have to pray to God to take you." It just shows you never know who you're talking to or who's listening. Death, it's the ultimate form of healing. Welcome. Welcome to Sunday Coffee Hour. I'm Stanley Smith. At Sunday Coffee Hour, we talk about everything and nothing. This Sunday, we talked about having an election hangover, going into probate, General Electric, and how Kamala, she wasn't a very good candidate. The readings at Washington National Cathedral were from Kings. Elijah was looking for hospitality from those who had little to give. They gave anyway. And from Hebrews, Christ entered into heaven once on our behalf, but we have to enter into church Sunday after Sunday. The gospel reading was from Mark. Special interest money was undone by the people who voted out of their poverty. The sermon at Washington National Cathedral was by Randy Hollerith. Randy said it's been a long, stressful week. We all have election hangover. 74 million people are happy, and 70 million people are despondent and heartbroken. As different as we are, the vast majority of people are good. People like you and people like me. The truth is, we have more in common. We're bound together by our shared humanity. In the end, there is no us or them, just us. Randy said he suspects there will be serious consequences from the election. Some may be dangerous, and some might be good. We can't depend on politicians to save us. Many are now afraid. All we can do now is trust and give what we can of ourselves in love to our neighbors. And living in the world with our enemies, well, Brene Brown suggests we focus on the small things, the microdosing of hope, doing small things that bring joy and delight into the world. We've been distracted from doing the small things by the distractions of the larger national and world affairs. We've all had a macro dose of that. We all want to change the world, but what about changing the minds of others, one person at a time, and doing it by loving them? We can give food to the hungry and provide justice to the victimized. We must stand up for the values of the cross and the values of Christ's kingdom, standing up for the weak, the poor, and against homophobia and racism. Anything that distorts the truth. It's not right or left. It's what God commands. We have our marching orders. If we call ourselves Christians, the work is the same, regardless of who sits in the Oval Office. Christ didn't come just for the good people. He came for every one of us. It's not our place to figure out who is good or who is bad based on who they voted for. At St. James Cathedral, the sermon was by Lisa Hackney James. Lisa preached about how we had a reprieve last week because it was All Saints Sunday. But now it's back to reality. Whatever the outcome of the election, the mission should be the same. There's no need to prepare 2 sermons for either scenario. God is the only scenario. Many are experiencing disorientation at the strong rebuke represented by the election results. Lisa said it would be foolish to ignore that message. At the prayer vigil following the election at St. James, many shared the sentiment that this time it will be different. There will be no more uninvited to the Thanksgiving Day table just because of who they voted for. We need to get over it and invite our difficult relatives and move this narrative forward. Lisa cited Walter Brueggemann, who shared that he was completely undone by the election results because we've been thwarted in our campaign for social justice. Many churches mistakenly conflated social justice with being Christian. Lisa said, we're not undone because we're presented with the opportunity now to engage with others and continuing the work of seeing the humanity in everyone, not in just the people we agree with or the people who voted the same way. I had the pleasure of meeting Walter Brueggemann on more than one occasion. At a lecture series he did on the Psalms, he said the Psalms are either praise or lament. I understand his lament. The notion that the social justice of LGBTQ, trans, anti-racism, economic equality is what it means to be Christian has been rejected. Christ didn't come to tell us how to be a good person. He came to show us. None of us want to be told what to do to be a good person. Bill Fisher was a member at Fourth Pres for 40 years. He was a central figure in the court case Fourth brought against me. During the court case, they said I had my friend write disparaging letters to them on my behalf. I couldn't figure out who that friend could be because I never asked anyone to write any letters. When the clerk of session called Bill in for a special meeting with the finance committee about withdrawing his pledge, Bill said, I've been a member of Fourth Pres for 40 years. Who the fuck do you think you're talking to? It's a novel question. My father always said, you never know who you're talking to. But in that moment, Fourth Pres found out who they were talking to. In the Bible, withholding hospitality is one of the greatest sins. But trying to exact hospitality or a gift from someone in the form of a pledge for financial gain is another level of depravity. None of us want to be forced to do anything. Bill worked his entire life in the hospitality industry at the Ambassador East, Hotel Nico, and Westin Hotels. He traveled the world with his friend Muriel on his free TWA travel pass from Hotel Nico. Bill was sometimes criticized for being kind of a spendthrift, even when he was spending his last dollar caring for his dying mother. Prior to knowing Bill, I had crossed paths with many of the same people who populated Bill's professional life, and I never found it necessary to defend anyone Bill had a low opinion of. Some things don't need to be said or shared, especially when you're a friend. It's just intuitively obvious. Bill did receive the gift of healing, and Fourth Pres did find out who they were talking to. And death, now for Bill, is just the beginning of his story. If you would like to join us at Sunday Coffee Hour, Sunday Coffee Hours every Sunday at 12 noon Central Time on Zoom, I will include my email in the description of this video. Be happy to send you an invitation. And I look forward to seeing you very, very soon.